there? Who's up who? The guy up first. Who? The guy for first base. Who? The guy up first. Who is on first? What are you asking me for? I'm asking you.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Who's on First. I'm Tim Ellerbrook. I'm with my good friend Brian Caplinger. Thanks for listening. Just a couple things at the top. We officially were able to change our Twitter handle, so everything in our social media is finally the same. So you can find us anywhere on at WOFBB Podcasts. So comment on stuff. Leave us some hot takes. Comment on our YouTube. Keep our conversation going. This is week 2 of the season. I'm sure it's been up and down for every single fan base, but Brian, the first thing I'm going to pitch to you, or question I'm going to pitch to you, is there anything that happened this season so far in the second week that's been kind of a surprise to you?
I mean, somewhat of a surprise. I mean, I'm obviously in much more of a chipper mood than I anticipated after the weekend series with St. Louis. But, at the end of the day, it is proving some things that I said early about the team just being a reality. I think the Twins series was kind of a one-off for us, at least to this point. But, you talk about the MLB as a whole. One, I think the thing that stands out that I love, it's not uncommon, but I'm seeing a better trend for it to stick around is offense. I think that's always a good thing for the game of baseball. I know if you're a pitcher or a defense lover, you're going to kind of cringe at that a bit, but it's been fun to watch. A lot of teams, are exciting teams. I think the biggest surprise of the season for me so far, and again, we're going to preface this all episode long. It's early. We know. We get it.
Yeah.
But it's San Francisco and the West as a whole. I think just, you got 3 teams with, 3 losses combined at the top, maybe 4.
Pull it up.
Because I think San Diego may have 2 losses now. But anyway,
you're right.
I mean, that is just shaping up to be an absolute battle out there in the West that I didn't expect. And I actually still have Arizona as one of the top teams, and they started out slow and are sitting at 500 early.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's been fun to watch. If I'm honest, I'm a little surprised by the AL West, just the way things are shaping up. Again, it's early. Some teams are now starting to get hot, like Houston. I saw that Alvarez finally got going here lately. Big 2-run home run, all of that. And so I think there's some fun there that's going to be had. Texas really showing out to start the season. But their offense, we knew, was going to be a juggernaut this year.
Absolutely.
And it looks like it's proven to be that way. Player-wise for me, and we can dive into these a little bit more after I say this because I want you to share a little bit. But, I mean, obviously, Judge doing what Judge does. Even without Soto, I think the big question is like, well, what's it going to look like without Soto for him? And he's like, Soto,
Chisholm's
who?
kind of stepped up a little bit more.
Yeah. And then I think Will Abreu for Boston.
Yeah.
The kid is on absolute fire.
The only guy that's not extended, too.
Right. You talk about Campbell for them, who just got extended, which is cool. Nathan Eovaldi for Texas. I mean, we know he's a big game pitcher.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see if he can carry some of this along the way. And probably the biggest surprise for me in the NL is Tommy Edman. And I think that stings a little bit to me.
Yeah, it does.
But
at the same time, I think Cardinal fans are like, we love that guy no matter what. We know he's going to be good.
Right. And then Tucker, you've got Jackson Merrill for San Diego. And I think the pitcher there that's really not that I doubted his stuff, but I didn't think he would be on as much as he is early as Luzardo for Philly. That dude is just
he
going
found another
crazy.
gear, it seems like, for sure. I think the number one thing for me is San Francisco. Not that they didn't make good moves or have a bad team. They don't have an amazing team. They don't have a bad team. It's kind of like good, but kind of the same way they won back in the day. And it's not me saying that they're gonna win, but they just have really good run prevention, really good pitching. I think Verlander's kind of stepped up a little bit in the sense of the year that he had prior, coming over there. And I know that San Francisco media has talked about how he's been helpful to everybody around him. So becoming that veteran leader for the rotation, but them being 8-1 is, when I was looking at the standings last night, I was like, whoa. Yeah. I watched their last game yesterday, and I was like, I think it was the bottom of the 8th, and then Seattle came back, and I was like, oh, Seattle's going to run away with it. But they came back again, and so I was just like, oh, San Francisco is doing something, and it's really cool. Are they going to stay in front of the Dodgers? Probably not, because the Dodgers are going to lose, 10 games this year probably?
Yeah.
But it'd be a good fight for
Right.
the West if they stay, and that would be great for baseball. And I look at the run differential too. It's not like they're just winning by run games. San Francisco has a plus 19 differential, which means they're scoring more than you would think.
And to me, it's a quiet 8-1. Like, I just really haven't heard a whole lot about them, even from the national side of things, and yet here they are. And again, 2 weeks in, but still, to be able to do that at that clip early says something about your team.
Yeah, and if you think about it, San Diego, you said it's 8-2, you're right. Their differential is plus 18, so it's around the same. And obviously, they have a more well-known, prolific offense. The other thing that really stuck out to me, and I haven't been able to put my finger on it, is Atlanta starting 1-8, only winning one game, but they just won their first game.
Right.
They had a series against the Dodgers and then the Padres, which is what we did last year.
Right, and that's hard to do.
When I said St. Louis did, but we came out better, and we had a worse team. Not that we had a horrible team. I remember we split the Dodgers series last year, and then I think we took 2 of 3 in San Diego.
I think you're right, too.
So I'm just kind of surprised. I'm like wondering, and if they're Atlanta fans, speak out. I've been watching the games. They're scoring. Their pitching's giving up stuff, but they have really good pitchers too.
The only pitcher that's really and he's only had one start, and that was Swellenbach.
Yeah.
I mean, and he looked dominant, and so they needed that from him, and so if he can do that again, it'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, some of their starters, and now we know Strider's hurt, Acuna's hurt, and so Murphy's still hurt. They got a lot of
but their
key
infield
offense.
core is still there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I think when you lose someone this is the undersell, at least from the national side. When you lose someone like Murphy for your pitching staff, it impacts. It'd be like us, obviously losing Ivan Herrera. Now he's not as big of a game caller, I would say, as probably Murphy is. But you lose that behind the plate, and now you've got a young guy or rookie who's kind of learning on the ropes.
Yeah.
In that it changes things. And again, it doesn't mean that they should be where they are. I mean, I think they have some veteran pitchers that should know how to handle that in a much better way. It's just been a rough go. Yeah,
I also think like baseball is such a weird sport, and everybody overreacts to the beginning of the season.
Right.
It's 162. And I mean, the season and the playoffs are just two different games. But you think about the Mets last year, how horrible they were, and they found something. They found the hamburger guy or whatever from McDonald's. What is his name? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Hamburglar.
Yeah, no, it wasn't the Hamburglar. The purple.
I know who you're
mascot.
talking about. Grimace.
Grimace, thank you.
Yeah.
They found Grimace, and then all of a sudden they made it to the CS. So baseball's a weird sport. The Braves
aren't done. I would not write them off.
I would say they're not going to stay there, but they could. Like every team could end up there.
Because I look at even Miami in that division, they're not going to stay at 5-3, 5 and
right. Yeah.
They're just not. I'm happy for them that they're winning some games early, but that lineup is not constructed for deep runs.
Yeah, it makes me remember. Do you remember Colorado in 23? How Colorado and the Pirates were undefeated forever. Right. And they were like, holy cow, this team's coming. And then they were horrible this year. A couple other small mentions. The Angels doing what they're doing for, a week and a half so far. Kind of surprised me. Obviously, they took 2 of 3 in St. Louis with us. We could have won those games.
Yeah, extra inning games.
Yeah. So they could have gone both ways. But, they're in second place. They're above Houston right now. Will they stay there? No.
I don't think they have the pitching depth to stay there, but it's fun to watch. And
yeah, for sure.
Apparently, I said it before we came on this morning, if you need a hitter that's slumping to get hot, just play St. Louis.
That's right.
We'll figure it out for you.
Or take us to extra innings. We're going 3 in extra innings so far. Last mention is the AL East. I have 2 more mentions, sorry. The AL East is a little closer than I thought. out of the gate. Tampa Bay and Baltimore are Tampa Bay. I'm sorry. Yeah, Tampa Bay is 4-5 and Baltimore is 4-6.
Yep.
I know Gunnar Henderson's just coming back. Run differentials are pretty good. Toronto is sitting at 5-5. So I think it's a little closer. I thought Tampa Bay was just going to start off super poor. Boston actually started off super poor, but then they played St. Louis, and we got them hot. That's what we do. Last thing I'll mention is the surprise for me was the Brewers starting off really poor, but now they're sitting at 500, sitting at 5-5. So, I mean, they started off against the Yankees, and they ran into the torpedo bat phenomenon. And then Cincinnati right now is kind of shocking me with the team they have and the offensive players they have. They're just not hitting at all.
They're going to be very streaky, even with Francona there.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the nature of the hitters that they have on their team right now.
Yeah, I think that streak of, like, what was it, 4 games or 5 games where they got shut out.
Right.
That was a little surprising. Baseball is a weird sport and a streaky sport because if 2/3 of your team is slumping and having trouble with something, obviously you're not going to hit. But
they're so predicated on speed, and when you can't get on base, obviously the speed goes out the window. It doesn't matter.
Which is what changed from Milwaukee. Secondary, I think it'd be interesting to talk about is that torpedo bat thing. I'll probably pitch it to you because you probably know a little bit more about it. I'm super intrigued because the Yankees came out and publicly talked about that's something that they're doing, and it's worked. Now, record-wise, they're in the mix with everybody else. They're 6-3. Boston's 6-4 behind them. So, I mean, their record is what it is. Their pitching is not great, but they are slugging the baseball. They are the offensive leader in all of baseball by a pretty wide margin. Team-wide, New York Yankees OPS is 950. Second place is actually St. Louis at 862. And then below St. Louis is Philly at 808. Detroit at 808 and Philly in fourth at 792. So I'm a little surprised. St. Louis is right behind it. And we'll talk about that later. But with what is it, 3 players on the Yankees, 4 players using them? I know.
Think about 4.
4, yeah. Can you talk about that a little bit? Explain it for people that have just kind of heard about it.
Yeah, and I mean, so basically, I mean, if you've been around baseball, you've seen it, you probably heard it explained, understand it a little bit. But the torpedo bat, obviously, the name comes from the look of the bat. It kind of looks like almost a torpedo or a bowling pin, if you will, towards the end of the bat is basically kind of the shape of the bat. It's not an illegal bat. That's why they're allowed to use them. I mean, when you look at the rules from MLB, the only rule for a bat is simply this, is that it must be smooth, round stick, not more than 2.61 inches in diameter at the thickest part of the bat, and it can't be any longer than 42 inches long. And it's got to be made of a solid piece of wood, no laminate, no like experimental bats. And one thing that a lot of people don't know is that before a bat can even be in the rack for the games, MLB approves them. So like they can't just bring a new bat at the beginning of a game and stick it in there, because if it gets found out, they'll be suspended. That it's an illegal use of a bat. So MLB has looked at these. These are not new bats in the scheme of the world. They've been around for a little bit. They've been around for years. Metal bats have been in the torpedo style. Yeah. So it's not something that is necessarily new to the game of baseball. I think it's just become newsworthy because of what the Yankees have done with it. And the reason why the Yankees did it makes total sense for me. They just did some studies and found that, especially Volpe is how it started. Their shortstop was kind of getting jammed more often than he was hitting the barrel of the bat. And so all they really did was kind of move the barrel of the bat down a little bit. It's not like they changed the bat all that much, but in order to do that, they had to take some wood from the top of the bat, and that's what gives it its look style, like a bowling pin, torpedo-esque look to it. And so it really isn't illegal in any way. I think it's a little bit of gamesmanship, but it's the same premise to me as when a pitcher goes off and finds a new grip for a curveball or
I agree. Yeah,
the new splitter that's out, those type of things. I think it's just gamesmanship.
Yeah.
Hitters are learning that sometimes, their sweet spot is a little bit different than what it was. And instead of adjusting their swing, they're adjusting their bats a little bit.
Yeah.
And we've seen it in the course of baseball all along.
Yeah.
Whether it's somebody chokes up to get a shorter bat or they, we saw it with the hockey puck handles to put weight at the bottom of the bat so you can create whip. We've seen it in different variations.
Yeah.
I think just what made it weird is you had the big home run game, the 15 home run.
Yeah.
Barrage from the Yankees or whatever that was, 13 in one game. And I think it just brings this all of a sudden. And part of it for me is I think, too, you got to understand, and you can correct me, Tim, if I'm wrong in this with the Yankees, their offense is really, really good. Don't get me wrong. And they're hitting the ball. They're slugging tremendously. But the majority of their games have been at home.
Yes.
So I want to see what it looks like when they travel to more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark.
So they just finished a series in Pittsburgh. That's where we're going now. And they still had an average score of like 6 or 7 runs per game.
Right, but the ball's not leaving the ballpark quite the same.
Yeah. The weather in Yankee Stadium, the short porch obviously benefits. I think it's important to point out with the way that the bat. Let's just talk about Volpe specifically. So he talked about how he was getting jammed, so he wanted to adjust the bat to fit his how he was being pitched. The thing is, the Torpedo bat doesn't incentivize contact. It doesn't help contact in any way whatsoever. It really is just a slug addition. You still have to make contact. The ball still has to hit the bat on the barrel. It's just because the barrel moved. If he hits it with the Torpedo bat and the new spot where the barrel has been essentially moved, he's going to slug more. And that's super true. If you look at his numbers so far, he's only got a 297 batting average. Well, I mean, which is good, but
right.
it's early in the season, so a lot of hitters are going to have a little bit of heightened numbers. But his slug is 703, which is great. That's an Aaron Judge slug number.
Right.
Even early in the season, that's still a heightened slug. So he's making contact at I would probably say an average rate early in the season, but he's slugging much, much more.
Well, and here's the other thing about it, too. I mean, you talk about, Aaron Judge, who does not use the Torpedo bat, is the one leading the league in home runs so far, 17 RBIs. Tommy Edman, right behind him with 5, doesn't use the Torpedo bat.
Right.
I'm looking up and down this list, and 3 of, the top 15 players in home runs right now are the only ones that I can say with confidence that use the Torpedo bat.
Right.
So it's one of those things it got the attention because, again, you have that one outlying game against Milwaukee where it seemed like everybody was hitting bombs, and especially those you have Chisholm who goes off, who's now vocal about using the bat this year.
Yeah.
Those type of things. But, I mean, when you look up and down the league, offense is up. And some of that is pitching still trying to figure some things out, right? So they're not as crisp so far.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, too, I think, why aren't we talking about, and maybe I'm starting a conspiracy here, I don't know. Why aren't we talking about maybe did MLB do something different with the baseballs that nobody really caught on to?
I think it's a pretty valid question because if you think about our team in general, and I don't want to spend time just yet, but if we're the second leader of OPS in baseball, and last year we were 28th.
And there's not much difference.
There's not much difference. Aside from we hired a new hitting coach, who changed the game plan and plate approach. And that maybe, and we'll see this over a full season, right? You're not going to know these things until probably 2 months into the season. But that's going to determine what we are. We almost have the same players with just a different approach. So either two things are true. Either one of the things are true, or maybe they both could be. The players have the talent and had a bad approach for us. So now that we have the same talent but we have a good approach, we might actually see the talent. or maybe, there's something in the ball or not, or pitching has been adjusted to.
Right.
Like baseball in general is a game all about being adjusted. And if pitchers and what they've been doing in the labs and everything, and pitch grips and spin has been seen now 2 or 3 times through the turn, and hitters are like, hey, now I can see it and now I understand it better. So it could be all of the above, though.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a marriage of a lot of things, right? I think you talk about off-season training. For hitters, there have been new technology has jumped up and allowed you to train at a higher level. I mean, you think about the VR situation that's coming in, and so
I think
batters,
that's here.
Right, and batters can pick pitchers that they know they're going to face, and they see their motion, they see how they hide the ball, and they can pick up on things, and get ready in a different way.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's still not always the same, but any slight advantage you can find in baseball, man, tends to have exponential growth in that. And so I think, again, I think it's a marriage. We've already seen Rob Manfred, who's the commissioner of baseball, come out and say they're not going to ban the Torpedo bats.
Yeah.
They actually like it because, again, more offense creates more eyes on the game. And we can both agree that's a good thing for baseball.
Right.
I mean, pitchers might not like it, but at the end of the day, if you can get more fans out of this, then why not? Like, let's have a summer of 98 again.
Yeah, the game's been starved for offense in general for a few years. And it's not like, obviously, Aaron Judge has still existed, and there's other elite hitters that are MVP perennial type hitters. But the game's been starved for offense in that middle ground, those average OPS to like 15% above average players. And to see that, I think, is exciting, because if you think about, in general, baseball is a game of entertainment. Fans are paying money to go see something entertaining and fun to watch. And with strikeouts just on the rise, and that's what pitchers are going after, to see more contact, to see the ball in play, to see the ball getting slugged more, it's just going to balance it out, right? But then, in 5+ years, we're going to swing the other way. It's a pendulum swinging thing. So I did find out, of all the Yankees using these bats, it's interesting. Listen to this. Jazz Chisholm, Anthony Volpe, and Austin Wells are the main 3.
Yeah.
But Bellinger and Goldschmidt have also started using them. I don't think, from what I read, Goldschmidt and Bellinger are not every at-bat type thing. It might be like, hey, this pitcher tends to do this to me, so I'm going to use this here, or something like that.
Right.
But I think if you think about Volpe's year prior, let me pull it up because I just had it. Apologies, guys. So in 24, Volpe had a slug of 364, which is pretty low. This year, he's off to, obviously, a hot start at 703. Chisholm, I think, is probably going to be the biggest difference. He had a slug of 436 last year, 500 with the Yankees, and he has a slug of 600 right now. So it probably is going to benefit specific hitters.
Sure.
In a certain way. It's not an end-all, be-all. The interesting small detail I think that would be fun to enter into this is the whole Ivan Herrera thing.
Right.
So the last game of the Angels series, which was Saturday? No.
Sunday.
We played a doubleheader on Sunday. Game off Friday.
Right, Thursday.
Wednesday was the last Angels game.
Yeah, because we had Thursday off. You're correct.
Yeah. So Ivan hit a career and a Cardinals record of 3 home runs, and he switched to using Donovan's bat. Now, Donovan's bat isn't a torpedo bat, but I did do some research on it. They talked about this on ESPN. But Donovan moved the barrels down more. His bat's actually thicker in a smaller area, so a little less torpedo-y. But to do it, he moved the, what do they call that? The cork at the top?
Not the cork, but like the cutout.
The cutout at the top. They basically pushed it back because, like you said, it has to be specific. And Ivan, dude, popped off. Like, it was crazy. I think he's the league leader in OPS in general right now at like 1,700 or something crazy. Yeah. So it's interesting. I think hitters in general need to do something to adjust because the game The game is starved for offense, so whatever it takes. And I think you're right. It's the same as pitchers changing grips and finding new things to do.
Spin rate, finding a new way to get more spin on breaking pitches. To me, it's one in the same.
Exactly. And I think it's exciting. It's fun to watch offense. Sure, pitching is really fun to watch as well, but if games are just over and over, small scoring games, the entertainment's lower because you don't want to see one or the other more dominant. Like if all you see in a season is just home run fests and BP pitchers, that's not going to be fun either. It's going to
and as a baseball purist, you can appreciate a good pitched and a well pitched game, but a lot of if you're trying to grow the sport, it's not going to be as inviting.
Yeah.
For younger fans to come in and see 2-0, 2-1, 3-1 games, because they're not looking. They want to see action, and when you have well pitched games, unfortunately, there's not a lot of action, which I think there's beauty in that. Like
totally,
I love seeing that. But I'm also old school. I'm also baseball purist at heart. Like I'll sit there just like yesterday, and I'm guessing pitches from my living room while I'm watching the game.
Yeah,
but the general fan is not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so they need to see action. They need to see base running. That's why I think the bigger bases were a win for MLB because it creates more steal opportunities, more potential pickoffs, more potential thrown out. All of this I think is good for the game. I think it's moving in the right direction. Do I want to see them make massive changes? No. I think the next big thing with the ABS system will be really good for the game as long as they can do it similar to how they did it in spring training. I think it'll help.
I think that's probably standard next year.
Right. But I'm with you in the sense that I don't want to see an automatic balls and like a robot system where there's no need for an umpire behind the plate.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the game's starved for offense, so I think it's gonna end up being really good. I mean, but we'll see over 162, right?
Right.
This could just be the month of April. Only,
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Right.
All hitters could end it into a slump, and the torpedo bat is moot if they're not making contact in the right specific spot. So I think it's been a really exciting week of baseball. So the next thing I want to talk about is our team, the Cardinals. Week 2 have had an interesting second week. They're 1-5. Between two series, we played the Angels at home, then we went on the road. We just got swept by Boston.
Really only in one of those games at Boston too. The Angels, I would say we were in every game.
Correct, yeah. We did come back in the first game of Boston, and I think we were close to being able to take it. But you're right, it didn't end up going that way. Couple things I want to point out before I pitch a question to you, Brian. So we are now tied for second all time, and I'm saying the Cardinals, in 10-plus hits per game, so double-digit hits by a team in a game. We just passed the Cardinals from like 1910 or something. Forgive me, I don't remember. I forgot to write that part down. But now we're behind Cleveland. In 1999, they had a record 10 games with 10-plus hits. So the next game today, if they record 10-plus hits, we'll be tied with them. And then the game after that, if they happen to do it, which I don't think they will because Paul Skeens is throwing.
Right, I was going to say
but
that's
we would
be
the all-time record leader. So I think as a team coming into it, who we watched in spring, we were all like, oh my gosh, this offense is going to be terrible again. Well, the season started, and we're a hit machine. ESPN even talked about it last night before the bloodbath started of how this Cardinals team is just hitting like crazy. There's still a risk issue somewhat, but when you're racking up that many hits, you're going to score runs. So I'm really impressed with the offense. Before I break down other specific things, I think that is something to really, really take away with the hitting approach that Brant Brown's brought. And no player looks lost at the plate. Yeah. Willie was for a bit, but you can start to see he had a couple of hits last night in that game.
He still has some moments. Yeah. But yeah, overall, not bad.
Jordan Walker is looking great at the plate.
Right.
Not swinging at sliders nearly as much. He is the team leader in strikeouts. Victor Scott's also the secondary one, but Victor Scott's also walking like crazy and getting on base, which is his job. He's also hitting the ball really hard, so I think that's a plus. Now we'll see these things over 162. But the thing is, what happened in Los Angeles or against the Angels and in Boston is the pitching just kind of fell apart. I'm going to throw 2 stats at you, and then I'll ask you a question. In the Minnesota series, so the first 3 games where we swept them, our pitching overall had a 2 ERA. They pitched 27 innings. They only gave up 16 hits, a total of 6 earned runs through all 3 games. Only gave up 2 home runs. They had 19 strikeouts, 5 walks, and at a .78 whip. The Angels series and the Boston series flipped the script. So in those 2 series, and so those 6 games, it is a 7.97 ERA. They're 1-5. They threw 0.1 innings, 66 hits, 49 earned runs, 6 home runs. They did give 30 strikeouts, 28 walks, which is crazy. 2 hit by pitches, which is kind of at a 1.7 whip. So my question is the pitching going to hold out? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? And if it gets worse, what are they going to do?
I mean, I don't know that it can get worse. I mean, it's pretty bad right now when you look at it, because none of our starters are going. We needed, again, you look at Miles Michaelis last night, we needed him to go at least 6.
Yeah.
And he was at almost 60 pitches, I think, through 3 innings, maybe even between second inning, it might have been up close to that. And so you just knew it was just one of those nights from the beginning. I told you, I had sent you a text, and I said, once Helsley blew game 1 of that doubleheader, I was like, it was not going to be pretty for game 2, because it's just,
Michaelis went 2.2 innings.
Yeah, see, so there you go. The first game in Boston, I think it was Sonny.
No, Fetty.
Fetty? Sonny. When did Sonny pitch?
Sonny pitched game 3 of the Angels series.
Did he? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he gave up the...
Gray gave up the grand slam.
That's right, to O'Hoppe. That's right.
The 7th
Right.
But we came back from that game.
Yeah, and we ended up winning that game. So, outside of that, for me, I think he's okay. I mean, he still has some work to do. Don't get me wrong. I mean, obviously...
Who is he?
Sonny Gray.
Okay,
so talking about pitching at the beginning, that's just one bad pitch.
Yeah.
That really kind of inflated things for him.
He had a great.
So,
he really did have a great eye. You can't take away what happened.
Right.
But if he doesn't come out, he threw 6.
I mean, it's just one bad pitch that O'Hoppe just happened to really take advantage of with the bases loaded. I mean, in credit O'Hoppe for that. He did what a hitter's supposed to do in that moment. So good on him. So it looks bad for Sonny, but I don't think Sonny's been bad. So I'll scratch him and say I think he'll be fine. He'll be better. I think the bigger concern for me is, honestly, right now is Miles Michaelis, because we're not seeing anything good from him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, here's a product when you have good offenses across MLB. So if we're talking about offenses being up, your pitchers that pitch to contact aren't going to be as effective.
Yeah.
Because balls, you look at that game last night, and even when they were talking with Jordan Walker in the outfield, he said it best. They were just finding the gaps at first. Right? They weren't extremely hard hit balls, all of them right away. They were up the middle, just past diving infielders, looping over the infielders, dropping them in, and it got them going. Now, then later in the game, they started smoking some baseballs. I mean, Devers started putting it off the wall, which, again, not hard to do in Boston. If you go the opposite field, you can really hit that green monster with a routine fly ball, but still, they did it. And I think, it's a hard place to play, but what I have seen from Michaelis concerns me, because there's no swing and miss in his game.
Yeah.
Not at all. And, for Palante, I hate to say it, and again, it's early. I don't think he's been horrid, but I picked him to be the player that struggles this year, the player that we're going to be most disappointed in, because I think, people are going to figure him out. Because, again, not a big swing and miss guy. And until you get that in your lineup, as far as your starting rotation, it's going to be hard to compete in Major League Baseball right now.
Yeah. So I'm not worried about Michaelis in the sense of I expected him to be horrendous, which I know that's not exciting as a fan of a team. But I just think, and I said this last year, and it showed itself starting in 23. He is such a BABIP like ball luck dependent person, pitcher, and maybe it's even better this year. But hitters and their ability to, and you kind of said it, put the ball in a specific spot. His velo is 91 and 93, which is, it's not horrible.
Right.
It's not great. Sonny Gray is 91 to 92. But he's got so many dominant other pitches and off-speed pitches. Michaelis is just, and I even texted this in the game to you, I think. There's no competitive pitch that Michaelis has. Right. So if he's in the zone, it's going to get hit. And and you can tell he's afraid of that because he gets himself in an 0-2 count, and then his pitch can't find the zone, and then when it does, it's getting smoked.
Right.
So he doesn't have any competitive pitch to get anybody out. And because they're not spinning well, so they're so flat and so straight, hitters can see him.
And he looked lost when Ollie pulled him and he was walking off the mound, and ESPN had the shot of him walking to the dugout.
Yeah.
In his eyes, he just looked lost.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because you just got shelled. Like, I get it. That's why I don't pitch. But
right. The other two things I'm concerned about. The second thing, maybe we'll have to see. Fetty's game, the first game in Boston, he only pitched 3 innings, gave up 5 hits, 6 runs. He had command issues, I think, from out of the gate. He started to get better, like 2 innings in, he started to get a little bit better, but then kind of lost his command. One start was really good. One start was bad. He's not going anywhere unless he's traded, and he doesn't have any value if he's not good. So he's going to pitch through it. So I'll be curious to see. He's someone I'm watching. I'm not really watching Michaelis to get better. He's a contact pitcher that doesn't have good pitches anymore. He's kind of running the end of his game unless he makes an adjustment, which the past 3 years we've kind of seen that it doesn't seem like he is. But he's also at the end of his contract, so I think if we get to May-ish, June-ish maybe, and he's the same, I honestly think they're going to cut him just because
there's no point.
It's just not doing any good for your team. But Fetty is someone to watch. The second thing is the bullpen has blown all of the games lately. Hernandez, man, he's walking
Fernandez.
people. Fernandez, thank you. He's walking people like crazy, and he's having command issues. Roycroft is struggling against righties and doing really good against lefties, which is the opposite of the problem last year.
Right.
King is getting smoked really hard now.
King's another one that has relied on accuracy, not velocity, and it's coming back to get him.
Yeah. The thing with it, his first game this year, Ollie threw him in against righties, and he's a lefty split pitcher, so I don't know what the move behind that was, but so his pitches are getting hit hard, which he has to find his spot, and they have to miss the barrel, which Palante is the same. I'm actually not worried about Palante the same. I think the movement on his fastball is just it moves so much. That's why he walks so many people. He's like, holy cow, that moved 4 more inches than I thought it was supposed to. So I'm not worried about him. He seems to be a guy that's going to just get himself out of jams somehow. Maybe it is a little batted ball luck like Michaelis, but I think his pitches move more. I'm really concerned about the bullpen, though. A week and a half into games, they are already almost completely obliterated because starters are going 3 innings.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. I mean, outside of Maton, there hasn't been a solid bullpen option. I mean, JoJo's been okay for us. I think Helsley, it's a one-off. I think he just, kind of like you said, I think he just did not have command. And you can put that on Ollie if you want to, in the sense of maybe Ollie should have gotten him out earlier in that game. But at the end of the day, you're playing a doubleheader, and the last thing you want to do is burn another arm in game 1. Like
that's
that
the
was
tough thing, man.
That was Helsley's game to close out or lose regardless, and he just didn't have it.
Yeah, and I think as a manager too, like with a veteran that Helsley is, he's like, it's kind of a point you're like, okay, I'm not babying this player. He can get out of it or he's going to lose it. Like, this is on him. And because they had a doubleheader, I can't ruin another pitcher or throw another pitcher out there. So it's something I'm interested to see. They're going to have to make a move because I think you're already reached innings limits on some of these players, and it's a week, 2 weeks into the season. Not because we don't want them in the bullpen anymore, but it's like you need an arm that's going to not fall off.
Are you telling me there's going to be some announcements of maybe some 10-day IL stints for some relievers?
No, I think not yet. But if I look at the bullpen, someone that surprised me, so we can be positive, is Leahy.
Yeah.
Obviously Phil Maton, but we paid him to be what he is. Leahy's thrown 5 innings so far. Has a 1.8 ERA, super small sample size. Is only given up one hit. It resulted in a run, but 5 innings of 1 hit. I mean, that's a really good reliever. He's in the what do you call that, long man mop up,
kind of like that long relief.
So he's impressed me. JoJo's sitting with a 1.9 ERA, so I think that's pretty good. And everybody else is. Man, there's a lot of double-digit ERAs in this bullpen.
Yeah, which bullpens tend to happen because you have one bad outing. It's you don't have enough innings to bring it back down.
Roycroft only has a 3.86 ERA, thrown 4.2 innings, given up 3 hits. For what it is, a few guys are getting blown up like crazy.
Yeah, some of it I think like the ERA numbers for relievers sometimes can be a little bit dicey, just in the sense too, because like again, Roycroft, he's been lit up a couple times, but the runs have been charged to the previous pitcher because the previous pitcher had put him on base, and so again, it doesn't go against him, but he was brought in to get them out of that situation and couldn't deliver. And so that's some of the challenge, too, you're seeing right now, especially with the bullpen.
Yeah, I think it's really early. It's a small sample size. We can't overreact right now. It's just something to pay attention to for, if there are fans that are like, who's going to be, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I think the bullpen is really thin. So in this Pittsburgh series, I think these starters have got to find a way to get innings out of them because we use those relievers in Boston like crazy because it's early April is a tough time to do a doubleheader because players aren't fully even. Starters aren't even fully stretched out completely.
Right. It'll be interesting to see what we get out of Liberatore today.
Yeah.
And what he can do because it might be another game where it's like similar to last night, game 2 of the doubleheader. Starter, you're just going to have to wear it until you hit that 100-pitch mark or close to 100 pitches.
And that's the one thing with Michaelis. He's supposed to be the guy that's just the innings eater, and we couldn't even get 3 out of him.
Right. Well, and I mean, I think he finished with like 80-some-odd pitches in 2 2/3 inning or 2 1/3 innings.
I won well with that game because either way, my team pick was going to win.
Right.
Boston Surge. Okay, second thing before we move on to finish, I think it's also important to realize how good this offense has been. And so all the players on our team, I'm going to mention all the ones that are above an 800 OPS because it's quite a bit. Herrera, Gorman, Donovan, Nootbaar, Pages, Walker, and Baker all have above 800 OPS, which is, if you think about a lineup, has 9 guys, that's 7.
Baker and Pages have limited at bats just because of their play roles so far, right?
Which Gorman is 2.
Yeah.
I will give it to this Wynn, who started off pretty horrendous. The last 4 games when he started hitting, so what was the 4th game? That would have been the last game of the Angels series. He's had 2 hits every game. So in the last 4 games, he's 8 for 15.
Right.
With a .533 average and above 1,000 OPS. So you can't take away the whole thing, but he's found it. So that's an 8-person, and VS2 is right below 800 OPS at 774. But his OBP is at 500, which is what you want from him. You want him just getting on base. So thoughts about your hitters, man. We went into the season wondering if this offense was going to be good, and they're the second best in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, again, early, but I love what the offense is doing. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Brent Brown. It's the approach side for me.
Yeah.
From his perspective. I mean, you look at Arenado, I figured he would have a bounce back if he was going to be here.
Arenado's not even on my list. He's above 800 too.
Yeah, he's a 953.
Yeah, what am I doing?
He's sitting pretty. I mean, he's leading the team in average. He's at a 343 average wise. Just has the one home run, but he's not striking out. I mean, only 3 strikeouts so far. And so you look at that, you talk about team leaders in strikeouts. I think Contreras is leading the team in strikeouts.
It's either Contreras or it's probably Contreras.
Yeah, it's not Walker.
16.
Walker only has 7.
Yeah, it's Contreras.
It's Contreras. Wynn has 12.
Mm-hmm.
And that was early. Yeah.
And Walker has 7.
7, yeah. So that's a big change. Like for me, that's been what's most promising. Would I like to see a little more slug out of some of these guys? Sure. But I think that'll come. The one thing that I think you've got to let, especially the young guys like VS2, Walker, Nootbaar, just let them hit the ball like they hit the ball.
Yeah.
And then it will, as the season moves forward, I think you'll start to see some of the launch angle. You'll start to see slug come into play. Mm-hmm. The only downside, and they started, I didn't see it as much last night, is go after that first pitch if it's in the zone. Like, it seemed like they were a little more patient last night than they had been in previous games. And I don't know if it's just because the prior 2 games were a rough draw for them.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm okay with that approach with some certain hitters, not every hitter. But it was a AAA starter that nobody had ever seen before.
Right. So and that's why I said they're trying.
Report could have been limited. You don't
know. And that's why I said maybe they were trying to see more pitches, things like that.
Scored a run the first game though.
I understand it. But I liked some of the aspect, especially early in the season where they were, taking advantage of some first pitch strikes. Like they weren't waiting around to get behind in the count. It seemed like the last couple games they're getting behind in the count and they're still having really good at bats.
Yeah.
But because you're behind in the count, you can't be as aggressive with your swing.
Yeah.
And I think that, kind of got seen a little bit in this one. But to me, the biggest surprise, honestly, is Walker's ascension and hitting the ball and not swinging at sliders outside the zone.
Yeah.
I knew Wynn was going to figure it out. His speed is going to help him.
I wasn't worried about it at all.
I wasn't concerned with that. Nootbaar,
I'm not worried about Willie at all either.
Me either. Nootbaar, I think the power profile that he has, it's impressed me a little bit. Now it's kind of slowed down some, but I wonder as the weather turns and it gets warmer, if we'll start to see some of that come back.
Yeah.
For him.
He had his first offer of the season last night. Now, it's a doubleheader in April. It's early, and that's got to be so exhausting.
Played pretty much the whole game, both games.
He's played every inning of every game so far.
And at some point, we got to get him out. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not out today as well.
Okay. Who's leading off if Nootbaar's not out? Because Donovan's played every inning of every game, too. And he
came in.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So Donovan, I think you just put Donovan up there.
Probably, okay.
And roll it.
Dang, that was a lot easier of a question than I thought.
I mean, I think you could, I know where you were going. I think there is a world in which if Nootbaar's out for a day, that you move VS2 up there just to see what he can do. I'm not saying it's going to be a consistent thing all season, but put him up there and see what he can do as a leadoff hitter. Because I think, to your point, he has done a tremendous job of getting on base, and I think that's what's important.
Yeah, I know he's got a higher strikeout count than obviously probably anybody wants, but man, I'm super impressed at him in his time in the box, he is working counts like crazy. Sure, he's striking out on 3-2. Hey, but getting to 3-2 and still getting 9 pitches and at bats, that's really, really good. I mean, he had a horrible year last year, and that was technically his rookie year. But if you think about, you can't wash it because it's on the page. But if you take that year away and look at this year as like, hey, this is a new Victor Scott, I'm super, super impressed. Now, obviously, I'm a homer. He's my pick. But still. Herrera with a 1,500 OPS and a 1,048 slug is going to be missed. He's getting put on the IL today. He'll be back. But
yeah, I think it'll be short. I mean,
I do too.
maybe a 10-dayer.
Yeah. I just think if you think about what this season is supposed to be, and I'm doing this in air quotes since nobody can see, we're supposed to see all these position players step up and see what they can do. So in 26, we can actually put a team together. So I would encourage, if there are any Cardinals fans, just don't watch the Miles Michaelis games. Watch the Liberatore, the Sonny Gray games, the Palante games, and then the other starters we bring up. Watch those games. Michaelis is probably going to always be what he is, but watch it for all these position players stepping up and doing what they can do because they're hitting like crazy right now, and it's really, really exciting, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see like Miles Michaelis. I mean, again, to go back to him just for a moment, when he plays lesser teams, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
But when he plays elite teams, they're going to take advantage of it. I mean, that's just what it's going to be. And you just kind of hope maybe the schedule sets up where he sees more mediocre teams than he sees the elite teams. Because at the end of the day, if by some stroke of genius the Cardinals do find their way into the playoffs, he's not going to be in your top 3. That's just not where he sits. So
he's not even making it that far on the team,
right?
No matter, honestly, no matter what, in my opinion.
So I mean, I don't think we're going to worry about that. It's early to talk about that because again, most of our predictions, I don't have the Cardinals making the playoffs this year. As hard as it is to say, but I think it's a big, uptick. I like what I'm seeing out of the young players when they have the opportunity to play and perform.
Absolutely.
And that's the win for me.
Yeah. And I mean, my pick and my take for the year for them still stands. They have better pitching in AAA right now than they do in MLB. So when they make those moves and bring those guys up, the rotation gets better.
Yeah, Roby looked really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
In 4 innings pitch.
Yeah,
now he's got to stretch himself out a little bit more.
Yeah. And Matthews has been okay, but I think he's going to be fine in the long run.
I do too, and I think there's a little bit of a letdown because he had such a big jump in a good spring that I think he thought he had an outside chance to make the opening day roster, and because he didn't.
You think so?
I think in any player's mind, you want that, right?
Yeah,
like that's your thought. And because he didn't, maybe there was a little bit of a letdown, and he's just got to kind of get himself going again. Yeah. That's why I say I think he'll be fine.
His outing, he threw 3 innings, only had 1 run, but he walked 5, but struck out, I think 5. So I think he's going to be fine. He's got to play for a few months because he's not coming up until.
No, McGreevy's going to be the next guy that comes up.
McGreevy's
I mean, that's already right.
So before we wrap it up, something I thought would be kind of fun to talk about is in the game in general, there are a lot of extensions given out to pre-ARB players. There was a couple that weren't pre-ARB, but I thought it'd be fun. I'm going to list them out. Then I pitched to Brian, what would that look like if the Cardinals could do the same? Now, they've not given any indication that they're going to, but they do have a lot of young players. They're looking to build a core. So what do you do with core players? You lock them up for a long time because it does 2 things. It tells the fans, hey, this player is going to be here for a while. Buy their jersey. Come see them play. And then it tells the players, hey, I'm going to be here for a while, so I'm committing to this team, and I want to help them. So I'm going to throw out the extensions that were given because there was quite a bit. Then I thought it'd be fun to do which 5 Cardinals would you give extensions to. So I'm going to do it in order right as the season started to now. The first one is Tanner Bybee at Cleveland. He got 5 years, 48, so he's a starter. And I think he's their ace, if I stand corrected. He's 26. He's
Close.
1 or 2.
Top 2, yeah.
Yeah, top 2. Seattle gave an extension to Cal Raleigh, their catcher. He was given a 6-year, 105. Arizona gave an extension to Brandon Pfaadt. He's a starter, and he's their number 3 or 4 right now.
Yeah, depending on who's healthy.
He was given a 5-year, 45. Boston gave an extension to Garrett Crochet, who is their ace, and he was given 180. Was it 180, 170? Then San Diego gave an extension to Jackson Merrill, and this is a really good one. They gave him 9 years, $135 million. And then Boston gave Christian Campbell, which is their second baseman, and they brought him up this year. This is his rookie year. They gave him an 8-year, $60 million deal, and then just overnight, Toronto gave Vladdy an extension, which is crazy. They gave him 14 years for $500 million, and that's going to be a terrible contract. Anyway,
no defer to my knowledge.
No
either.
deferment. Well, okay, soapbox. That team is horrible, and their farm system is completely decimated, and they can't get free agents to sign. So the only way
also extend Alejandro Kirk that we didn't have on that list?
Yeah, I didn't put that on the list because it was earlier, but they did give him a 5-year. They gave him a 5-year contract.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't massive by any stretch, but
yeah, Toronto is in such a weird place. They're denying the fact that they need to rebuild because their system is decimated, but they have the most money of any ownership group in the league, but they can't buy free agents because, in my opinion, it costs so much money for free agents to go live there and play there. But also the team is like, okay, what is this team? Anyway, it might end up working out. I could totally be wrong. I don't think it is. The main point of this is let's go. What are your 5 extensions? Starting with your first one, and we'll go back and forth.
Okay, yeah. So my first one I said is Newt. I think that, he's obviously getting right there. And so the number I kind of threw out, I think would be a fair for both sides, is a 7-year deal for $100 million for Newt. Because it puts him right around the 15 per year-ish mark. And I don't think that's outrageous to pay for somebody like that. You're buying out, obviously, some of his, ARB-ish years that may be remaining, giving him a fair price for that. And then also, you're not like locking him up super long-term, like a 14-year deal where you're going to be worried about him at the end of it. It gives him an opportunity, if he plays really, really well within these 7 years, to get another big-time contract, whether that's from you or somebody else.
Yeah, totally. So my first one is actually Mason Wynn. No surprise. I'm giving him a 9-year, 140. The reason I'm doing that is it's pretty comparable to Jackson Merrill's contract. And I think the Cardinals, and I think he is the face of this organization. He's going to play pretty elite shortstop defense, and I think he's going to be a hit tool type of guy. He's probably going to be like a 20-20 or 20-40 type of player ceiling, and he's got a great personality. And I just think he's the face. Like, he's owned it in his first year. This deal for me doesn't start until ARB starts. So he's got this will start in 27 for me. So it's 9 plus the 3 pre-ARB years. So that would be a total of 12 years.
Yeah.
This would lock him up.
Yeah, that's why I didn't have like him or even Walker for that matter up in the top for me because you've got a little bit of time to work out some of these deals. But I have a very, he's a little bit lower on my list, but I have a very comparable deal. I said the Jackson Merrill deal would probably be the starting point, I think, for him. 135. Yeah. I'm completely...
Which Merrill's probably the face of the Padres for the next decade.
Right. So that's why I was like, it makes a lot of sense if you could get that same deal. And again, you're talking a $15 million a year-ish. I mean, you could front load, back load it type of deal. Right. I mean, at some point, you're probably going to talk about maybe, adjusting that contract if he performs in those 9 years, but you can cross that bridge when you get there.
Yeah. Basically, I didn't list that, but what they did with Ketel Marte, he was already under contract, and they wanted to add a few years and then readjust the number disbursement. So yeah, you could totally do it. Who's your number 2?
So my number 2 is Donnie. And so for me, I made this one really, really short. There's going to be a theme you'll kind of see. It's around because I feel like this is something the Cardinals can do. is I put a 5-year, $75 million deal for Donnie. Just because, again, he's a little bit older. What is he, 26?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking 31 when this is done. You know, it strikes me as kind of like the Matt Carpenter-esque for the Cardinals. So don't overpay, you know. But then if he, at 31, let's say he has exceeded what you wanted him to be, you can come back with another 3-year deal, you know, at a good number for him as well. And if not, you can cut your ties, let him go somewhere else, and you're not really out a lot. Again, it's around that $15 million a year mark. So, you know, you're not really starving yourself because you'll still have some money available to go do some other things if you need to.
Yeah. So my second one is, to no surprise, Victor Scott. But I'm giving him just a 6-year 100, which is, I think, probably a little pricey. So I might adjust the number. I was hesitant to give him longer because we haven't seen enough yet. But all of my deals, except for one, start right at ARB. So Scott won't hit ARB for another 2 years. So this will get 9 years-ish out of him total. My reason is I think he's another franchise face, and three of mine are those type of players. I think he's got the personality and the swagger of what this organization needs really badly. I think he plays the type of game that Cardinal fans really want to see, and him and Mason paired together like they are in the lineup. They could be 1-2, they could be 8-9 like they are wherever. I just think that's a really exciting brand of baseball that would be really fun for fans to see. Just the small ball type. Like one day they could slug, one day they could just take a walk and then have havoc on the bases together. Like seeing them double steal for years, I think it'd be a lot of fun. And I think you need a center fielder in this outfield that we have now. And what we probably assume, both of us are going to have Walker on our list. You're going to need someone with range in the outfield, so you have to have someone with speed. And again, I just think the personality is great. And I think he plays really exciting baseball. As long as he's getting on base and he's taking like good at-bats like he is showing now, I think it's worth it for me.
Yeah. I don't have him on my list just for that reason. I think you see how this year plays out.
Yeah.
And if he does continue at the pace that he's at, again, I'm not looking for him to be this world beater this year, but as long as he has a good on base, he hits the ball consistently, steals some bags for you, I'd be okay with that. Like, I could see that.
If I adjusted the number, I'd probably do 6 for 75.
Yeah,
like that.
Yeah, I could see that. Like,
team friendly.
It looks like, to me, it kind of looks like the Campbell deal from Boston. You know, an 8-year, 60 with incentives,
something like that. Yeah,
with incentives that could push it up close to 100 mil.
Yeah, which we're not. I haven't even mentioned any of that.
Right. So like that. Yeah, that makes sense to me. I just didn't have him. My third is Walker, and it's the same thing we talked about with like Merrill. Jackson Merrill for San Diego. You know, I'm talking 9-10 years, you know, around that 135 to 150 mark. Maybe add some incentives in there for him. If the power numbers go up, maybe you could bump it up a touch to 160-ish.
Yeah.
You know, just to give him some incentive there. But if you could lock him up, again, he's 22, so you lock him up. And again, you're pushing him at that 30 mark. I think that's, to me, at least as if I were a GM, it gives me some leverage to say, hey, look, here's the deal. We're going to get you paid early, but you're also going to have an opportunity if you perform really, really well in this contract for another big contract. Like
it's essentially, it's the quintessential Pujols contract they gave. They gave him 7 for 100, was it? Something like that. When he was young, and it took him to 30 or something like that, and then had an opportunity to test
and then you could get another 7-year deal and maybe get $300-400 million if you really, really outperform in this time.
Yeah, and I mean, you can't take away, like you said with the previous one, you can readjust an extension inside of a contract
any point,
already.
Yeah. Like, so if he, like, let's say in the next 3 years he does start showing 35, 40 home run power, and he comes back to you and says, hey, look, I'm outplaying this contract, then you can revisit that and say, hey, we'll tack on,
Yeah.
4 or 5 more years
Yeah.
to your current contract,
And I mean,
but we'll bump
or
up the
something like
price.
So say it's 7 years into the deal. So if it's a 9-year deal, 7 into it, hey, we want to keep this player. He is bringing so many fans to the ballpark. Let's keep him here for the rest of his life.
Exactly.
You can do that the second time around instead of giving him a 15-year deal
right
out of the gate.
Right. At 28, give him another 10-year deal.
Yeah.
With a lot higher AAV.
Yeah, lock him up
for the rest of his career.
So my number 3 is the same. I did 9 years, 140 for the same exact reasons. So we'll move on. Okay, so who's your number 4?
Number 4, this is where I had Win. And again,
Okay.
It's that same contract that we talked about. The only difference for me there is maybe you incentivize Gold Gloves, things like that, where he could get a little extra money in his pocket because of those things.
So my number 4, and this one is where the timing of the contract changes. My number 4 is Weatherholt.
Okay.
And I'm giving him a deal at the end of the year before he shows up to the major leagues. So I'm giving him the deal that the Brewers gave Churio. So I'm giving him 9 years for $80, which is pretty
very
cheap.
Team friendly.
Very, very team friendly. But he hasn't seen a major league field. And I think that says 2 things. I says, hey, we believe in you. We want fans to come see you. And we don't even care what you do. Metrics and everything says you're going to be fine on the back end. Because organizations will have seen that. But if you think about it, like what they did with Churio, because he's going to struggle in the first year that he plays because he's going to get adjusted to and he's going to have to learn. But this is the kid that this is their first draft pick in the, number 7 that they've seen for a while. Now, the only thing that would change my mind to not do this, because again, this is in 7 months or whatever, 6 months. What is the draft pick this year going to be? Because it's a higher pick. And the only way this changes is if we draft Ethan Holiday. And I would give that to him.
Okay.
So I don't know that I can add the caveat in this discussion, but that's my reasoning. Because if you think about it, so the 4 that I've given is Wynn, Scott, Walker, and Weatherholt. That's your 1 through 4 in your lineup in 2027.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so like the top 4 in your lineup is locked up. I have not giving pitchers anything in here because I'm hesitant to give Matthews an extension yet and McGreevy an extension yet. So you're number 4.
Yeah, my number 4, and I put this is the funny. I put Gorman, but I got a lot of question marks.
Yeah.
Because obviously we haven't got to see him. Though the few times we've seen him, he's looked great this year, at least from the plate perspective.
Yeah.
And so, I think maybe a marker to look at, maybe the Alejandro Kirk deal.
Oh, like the 570 or something like that?
If you could get him to sign. I don't think he's going to sign that deal, but if you could.
If you gave it to him right now?
Yeah.
Oh, he 100% signed that deal.
Well, then I say you go for it because it's a low risk, high reward deal, in my opinion. Because if he does come back and he proves that he can hit 30 bombs, 40 bombs for you, I mean, it's a win from the left side of the plate. Because I'm not looking, again, this is a little bit different because I'm not looking at the average. I'm just looking at slug from him. What can he provide slug-wise? Although, again, this year he is, at least in his limited at-bats before he got injured, he's shown a little bit more of a patient approach at the plate. He's hitting the ball more consistently, not striking out. And so that's why I put the question marks, because I was like, if he comes out this year and he totally goes, you might be talking about a deal for him that's like the Cal Raleigh deal.
Oh, really? 6-100?
Yeah.
Somewhere like that?
If he hits. Now he's got to hit.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said there's just this big swing for me in that, depending on how he performs, but we're going to have to wait and see if he's healthy enough to do that.
So that's actually mine. That's funny. We're almost identical. So my last one is Gorman, and I'm giving him 575. So to me, I would take that type of bat with even prior to the adjustments we'll see this year. I would take that type of bat for that type of money. Because if you think about Alonso, who is that with a little more home runs because he plays 162 games. He got 30 this year, and he wants more because he only took a 1-year deal because he wants more money. So he wants to, do another year to prove it. Those guys are expensive. Like Schwarber, those are expensive bats. And
right.
locking Gorman up for 15 years, that's left-handed for that type of power is pretty cheap. And then it's a short-term deal in the sense you could cut him or you could let it go, at the end of it. Trade him, get him somewhere that team would take that type of money. So I think, for me, it's a no-brainer, but I get why fans would not want to. But I was going to point this out earlier. He only has one strikeout right now.
Right. That's
8
what
at bats.
Very limited, right.
Yeah.
Very limited before I believe it was a hamstring issue.
Yeah.
And he's still got about 5 days on the IL.
Yeah.
So
I want to explain real quick why I didn't put Newt and Donovan on my list.
You want to trade him?
I do want to trade him. 2 different reasons, though. Newt is worthy of an extension, but he's going to be too expensive. I think he's going to want 20 plus a year, and I would rather take that money and give it to more players that are younger than that. Now, is that going to be a regretful decision? Potentially. That would be the one decision, if I were a GM, that I would be like, oh, I really want to do this, but it's going to be so expensive.
But I think if you can get him for 20, you'd be fine. If you get him for 20 a year, because you got to remember, you're going to drop the Arenado contract.
Yeah.
You're going to drop the Willie contract.
Yeah.
Those are $50 to $60 million a year right there, and you're only spending a third of that for Newt Bar.
Totally, but he's not going to take that for 9 years, 7 years. He's going to want more money for that much longer. In my opinion, I could be wrong, but
I think he would sign it. Now, I think you could. This is another one, and this is where MLB contracts get tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because you could laden a ton of extra money coming in depending on health. Like you could literally put a clause in there that he gets an additional $10 million if he plays X amount of games in the season.
That's true.
So there could be some caveats where I think you could get him for the $15 to $20 million a year for the 7 to 10 years if you choose to want to go that route.
Yeah.
With some incentives where hey, if you hit this many home runs or if you play this many games type of deal, you get extra money, which would then push the contract to, let's say, getting him into that $20-25 million esque for a year
with incentives. I mean, that's a good point. It would have been my number 2 contract because I'm giving it to win first no matter what. But Newt is another franchise player. His personality is infectious. He's really fun. He has I feel like he set the tone in the clubhouse with his personality, but he's also set the pace of the lineup. Him hitting first this year so far has done nothing but good things for everybody else behind him. Gotten on base at a crazy clip. So I'm just nervous about him being too expensive. That was my hesitation. The other one is Donnie. I think this is probably a hot take, and it could be very wrong. I think his relationship with St. Louis is ruined this year because of arbitration. 2 things that stick out to me because of it, and I was talking to someone on Twitter about this yesterday, and they think I'm wrong, which is fine.
You're allowed to think that.
Yeah, true. The arbitration thing messed Tyler O'Neill up pretty good. 2 different players and 2 different mindsets, 100%, but it did something, even though they said, oh yeah, I mean, it's business. The year that happened to Ryan Helsley, it changed the relationship dynamic of the team that year. And that year, he got hurt, pitched really poorly. He won arbitration last year, pitched incredibly. I just think when players see the first side of the business side and they get hurt by it and that things don't go their way and they get told things that they're wrong about or they're not good enough for, man, I think it changes the dynamic. And the second thing is, if there's one thing that the Cardinals are really good at doing in this time period where they've been terrible, is developing utility men, really, really good utility men. So as much as of an amazing player Donovan is, and as great as he is for the clubhouse and the leadership of it, we're going to have 10 of those in the next 3 to 5 years coming through the system that can almost do the exact same thing. Are they the same personality? No. But it feels a little poor management to sign somebody of who we're going to be developing a ton of. Edman is the same way. We got rid of Edman because we have Donovan. We got rid of, what's his name at second base? Wong, because we had Edman. We just developed those guys like crazy, so why would we give a lot of money to them?
Right.
So that's just my opinion.
My only thought in that would be you need somebody to play left. And so one of those two has to stay.
Oh, yeah, we're going to have to find outfielders for sure.
Right. And so for me, I think that's why I say, like, I could be okay. I mean, obviously, I think Newt has the higher ceiling ultimately.
Yeah.
I think Donovan's probably more of the true Cardinal.
Yeah.
In that.
100%, yeah.
And so, like, if it were me and I had to make the choice between the two, I would go ahead and move away from Donnie. I might even trade him this year if Newt can prove that he can stay healthy, right?
Yeah.
Because then he's a good outfielder that I know is not going to clog up the infield in any way because he's not coming in to play infield.
Yeah.
Now, Cardinals are probably thinking, oh, maybe we capitalize on the value of Newt, get something bigger.
Yeah, he's going to get the biggest return.
Donnie goes out to left, but then we always have the caveat if somebody gets hurt, Donnie can come back to the infield.
Yeah.
Like either way doesn't necessarily like offend me at the core, but if I had to choose for me, because of the amount of infielders we have, you saw a little bit of what Sagasi could be last night.
That's just your utility guy, though.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's why I tend to say I'd rather, and not because I dislike him. I like the dude. I think he's a tremendous ball player, but I would rather let Donovan move away than I would Newt. Even though Newt's going to cost me a little bit more, I think the upside is much higher potential.
So the other thing with me is since I'm extending Weatherholt, he's my second baseman for however many years. And if I was to extend Newt, which I'd want to, if it wasn't crazy expensive, I'm extending him for 2/3 DH, 1/3 left field. I'm putting him at DH when he hits, what is he, 27 now? I'm putting him at DH for half the year now and then 2/3 of the year down the road. Just because health is a concern with him, and he is the best bat. He is the MVP of the team if he's healthy. And, man, I want to keep him healthy because if Shohei can win MVP just batting, that's Newt Barr's profile, bat profile, if you think about it. I'm not saying those numbers are going to be that high.
Right.
But that's his bat profile. So I would want to, but, man, I just feel he'd be too expensive for me.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I understand that dynamic. My only pushback is, and we've seen this, and maybe he could adjust, is Newt may be a player that has to play the field to also be that engaged in a game to be the bat that you need. So, again, we don't know because he hasn't tried.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to at least experiment with that, especially if health is going to be an issue, because to me, his bat is more important than his fielding by far.
By far, yeah. If you guys have any thoughts, or like if your team has the ability to do that, or you think they should, let us know in the comments. Talk about extensions of your team. I think that'd be fun. Or if you have disagreements or thoughts, extension ideas for the Cardinals, and you think we're wrong, let us know in the comments. Thanks for listening to this episode of Who's on First. Again, you can find us on YouTube and Twitter at WOFBB Podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.